Okay, guys, are you getting on?
We were living in Trenton at the time. There was a snow, 12 inches of snow. Somebody called. He says, "You make a delivery, okay, I need a carton of cigarettes." He said, "No, the cigarettes are good."
All right, we'll get started. I don't see the guys on Zoom today. All right, hopefully they'll get on. Maybe they figured that we're going to have to talk. Okay, is that all right? Okay. Learning, Michael's not here this morning either. Huh? All right, Bob may come in a little bit on the late side. I know he and Dove are busy rolling towards. Here's Marty, okay. Learning sponsors, Sue and Arnie Garlick in memory of Malcolm Proman and Philip Mann. Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Beryl ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Henya Rivka Pro Rosna Bas Arav Tzvi Hirsch. In memory of family murdered in the Holocaust, Arav Tzvi Hirsch ben Shlomo Yaakov, Sarah bat Ephraim, Yisrael David ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Ephraim ben Arav Tzvi Hirsch, Adia bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Miriam bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Pesel bat Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shalom ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shlomo Yaakov ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch, Shmuel ben Harav Tzvi Hirsch. Marcia Federbush and family, in memory of her husband, Dr. Uriel Paul Federbush, Uriel Pinchas ben Arav Shimon, Sharon and Fred Lisker, their family and many friends. Memory of her dear mom, Harriet Friedman, friends of Gitlick and Martha Gitlick, Shana Bat Yeshaya, children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren of Toby Paris, Saratova Bat Yisrael Dov in her memory, friends of Malka Levy, Malka Bat Yosef, friends of Joe Wolf, Yosef Ben Chaim, Charlie Gelfenstein and Sam Levine, in memory of Ramona Levine, Rachel Mata Bat Asher. Have a month of learning now by Lynn Rappaport, in memory of her husband Avram Ben Zion HaKohen. A week of learning by Michael and Sharon Glass, in memory of his mother, Rivka Yita Bat Yitzchak HaKohen, by Jonas and Clara Wazer, in memory of his mother, Chaya Bat Yona Yitzchak, by Robin Lerner, in memory of her father, Reuven Ben Yosef. Have a day, today, a day of learning by my wife, Karen, and myself, in memory of her father, Shalom Tzvi Ben Aharon, and by Jerry and Rochelle Ebner, also in memory of his father, Yitzchak Isaac Ben Avraham. And that is it for today. May the Shamas have an aliyah, Kranka Rafiya, Vel Yeshiva Shama Taliyah, and L'chol B'nai Yisrael, a good Ben Shia. Okay, and Bob is here live today. Bob, good.
I don't know about that.
I hope so.
Hey, you're doing a good imitation, though.
Okay.
My long range.
Yeah. Okay.
Be careful when you walk in the bank.
Okay. I'm going to, even though it's a lot of Gemara today, it wasn't exceptionally difficult. Should we close the door? I'll get it. Sam isn't here either today. Huh?
I left. You just left.
I didn't know if Dov was going to come in or not. So, all right, let's get underway. On the very bottom of Tet Amud Beis, right? There's a good place to start, right?
On the very bottom.
Towards the bottom, right?
Well, finish near the top.
I know, but I just want to use it as a jumping off point. All right? We had these problems with Rabbi Yochanan, who kept saying Muchlefet Hashita. In other words, switch who said what in terms of between Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. And we're going to see that the Gemara continues that discussion for a bit, okay? In terms of a number of attempts to clarify the situation, whether you really have to follow the example that Rabbi Yochanan is saying or not, okay? All right, so towards the bottom, okay, we saw, okay, I'm picking up real quick, 3 lines from the bottom on, okay, on Tet Amud Beis, Ubeit Hillel Omrim Omeid Va'omer, that was their view. Remember, you didn't have to handle the words.
Right.
All you had to do was say designate it, either by color, okay, or which window it was in, things like that, right? Okay, so we saw that, right? And they basically said that should have been enough. So the Gemara raised the question, Gabe Simchat Yom Tov, Beit Shammai Lechumra, Ubeit Hillel Lekula. Okay, it seems to imply, okay, this from what we've seen so far, Beit Shammai stringent, Beit Hillel lenient. Or Minhe, we contradicted with the following. Hashochet chayav ha'of b'yom tov, amar Rabbi Yochanan muchlefet hashita. So we said we're going to see this issue continuing now. V'dil Malohi, perhaps that's not the case. Ad kan lo amrei Beit Hillel elehecha deika dakar na'utz. Up to that point, we said there in that case, okay, with regards to the filling the whole business with a hole, right, and shechting an animal and kisui hadam, that it was when a situation had to have the spade already in the ground.
That's the
Now-
only case Beit Shammai
Right.
would be matter.
Right? So what happens? Now we get to today's daf. Aval hecha deleka dakar. No, it's where we don't have it in the ground. Lo, that wouldn't be the case. Inami, or also we could look at it the opposite way. Ad kan lo ka'amrei Beit Hillel hacha. Beit Hillel didn't give that answer, their answer there. In that here in the case of kisui dam,
No, in the
Elokei-
case of-
against the animals.
Right.
In case of the birds, right?
Right.
Elakivan de muktzhu. Why? Because if you didn't designate it in advance, the bird would be muktzah, right? Ba'omed va'omer zeh v'zeh ani notel sagi. But in other words, to designate it as prepared for yontif, for shchita,
That's
it would be enough to say it.
Takes
Right?
out of muktzah.
Aval hatam lo. But in that case there, okay, we're saying the whole digging business, no.
Right.
Okay, now we still come back to the fact that we have this difficulty that Rabbi Yochanan said to switch positions.
Right.
All right. Ela kasha hakash. If it's problematic, maybe this was the problem, the difficulty for Rabbi Yochanan, and why he said you needed to reverse the views. All right, and we're going to continue with this issue as we proceed now. Beit Shammai omrim ein notlin et ali v'katsev alav basar. We don't take a pestle, okay, or a wood beam in order to cut meat or chop meat, okay, on it. Beit Hillel matirin. Beit Hillel permits it. Alma, therefore, gabe simchat yom tov. Beit Shammai lechumra. It would apply then for rejoicing in the holiday. Beit Shammai is stringent. Ubeit Hillel lekula, and they're the lenient. We're minhei, but we'll raise a contradiction. What do we use? The same example, always. Hashochet chaya va'of, Beit Shammai v'chulei. Notice now the Gemara doesn't even give us the whole thing. Okay, but right. Amar Rabbi Yochanan. And then Rabbi Yochanan said, Muchlefet Hashita. Okay, that was his answer. Mimai, based on what? Dil Malohi. Maybe that's not the case. Ad kan lo ka'amrei Beit Hillel hata. Maybe Beit Shammai, I'm sorry, only said it there in that case, right? Elehecha de'ika dakar na'utz, with Kisui Adam, where it had the, right? Where he was more lenient because that's the spade was in the ground. But where there was no spade already in the ground, no. Okay. Inami, or also we can go the opposite way. Remember, Ad kan lo ka'amrei Beit Hillel. Here, Beit Hillel and say, Hacha, here. In other words, in the case of the pestle,
Right.
chopping the wood or cutting the wood, right? Ela deika Torat kli alav. Why? Because the question is, does it have the general identification as a utensil? Okay. Aval hatam, but there, in regards to the issue of the kisui dam, no. Ela ikasha, again, our same issue. If hakasha, okay, if it was problematic again for Rabbi Yochanan, maybe this was the problem that bothered him. Another example, Beit Shammai omrim ein notnin et haor lefnei hadorsin. We don't put out an animal hide in a location where people are going to step on it, stomp on it, because that's actually considered part of the Gemar Malach finishing,
Process.
right? Part of the
Something,
tanning
yeah.
process, right? V'lo yigbienu ela im kain yesh alav kazayit basar. And you shouldn't even pick it up unless at least there's an olive's amount of meat still attached to the animal hide, right? Ubeit Hillel matirin. And Beit Hillel permits it. Alma, therefore, Gabi Simchat Yom Tov, Beit Shammai lechumra, Beit Hillel lekula. It would appear then that Beit Shammai for rejoicing the holiday is stringent, and Beit Hillel is lenient. Or minhei, but we'll raise the contradiction. Hashochet chayav va'of b'yom tov v'chulei. Again, the same contradiction, the same right. Now, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, and there too, Rabbi Yochanan keeps saying, Muchlefet hashita, reverse the position. Mimai, based on what? Asks the Gemara. Dil Malohi. Maybe that isn't the case. Ad kan lo ka'amrei Beit Shammai hatem. Maybe we might say that Beit Shammai in that case back then of, again, Kisui Adam, only said it, his position, Elahecha de'ika dakar na'utz. Okay, notice how it continues to, that's why we can move right along. That's so long as you have the spade in the ground, right? That's when he would be permissive of Kisui Adam. Aval hecha deleka dakar na'utz, lo. Okay, again, if it's no spade, no shchita. Inami, or we'll go the opposite route, are also. Ad kan lo ka'amrei Beit Hillel. Hacha. Beit Hillel didn't say in this, our current case, okay? Okay, of the skin of the animal hide, right? Ele dechaze lemizga aloye. In order to basically
you can
sit on it, to recline on it. Okay, in other words, you put the hide on the floor or on the whatever. Okay, that kind of thing. Aval hatam, but here, lo. Ela ikasha, hakasha. Again, if it's a problem for Rabbi Yochanan, maybe this was the example of the problem. Beit Shammai omrim ein misalkin et hatrisin biyom tov. Beit Shammai says you cannot remove shutters on Yom Tov, right? Beit Hillel matirin af lahachzir. And Beit Hillel says not only gives you permission to remove the shutters on Yom Tov, but you can even put them back on. Okay.
The Mishnah is talking about a person who has a store who can sell stuff on Yom Tov. He's allowed to open the shutters.
Right. Remember they
put the shutter
if you
down.
ever, right. Right. If you remember, either they had opening shutters like that, or they had something that they would take down, and then they would put that out on like sawhorses. I used to remember. Okay, and use that as a display area.
That's what the Mishnah is talking.
Right.
Like in a shuk.
Exactly.
Like in the show.
Exactly. So that when you think of that, that's exactly the parallel, right?
Right.
Okay. Beit Hillel matirin v'alachzir. Alma, therefore, gabe simchat Yom Tov. Again, rejoicing for the holiday. It would appear Beit Shammai lechumra, Beit Hillel lekula. That Beit Shammai is stringent and Beit Hillel is lenient. Or minhei. But again, we'll raise that same question, right? Hashochet chayav va'of b'yom tov v'chulei. Now, Bishlema Beit Shammai. That's acceptable to Beit Shammai. A Beit Shammai lo kasha. Because here we can see then there's no problem between what Beit Shammai says in one place and Beit Shammai here. In other words, he seems to be continuously, consistently stringent.
Right.
Okay? So far. Hatam, right? De'ika dakar na'utz. There, we said that it had to have the spade in the ground. Hacha leka dakar na'utz. Or here, you say when he doesn't have spade in the ground. Okay? So either way, Beit Shammai seems to be not in contradiction with itself. Ela Beit Hillel, a Beit Hillel kasha, but there seems to then to be a problem with Beit Hillel. Amar Rabbi Yochanan muchlefet hashita. Maybe that's why Rabbi Yochanan now says that you have to reverse the positions. Inami, I'm going to include also Ad kan lo ka'amre Beit Hillel hacha. Beit Hillel didn't say it here. In our case, Ela mishum de'ein binyan b'kelim, because we say that there's no prohibition of building with utensils. That's the whole issue here of the use of the shutters. Okay? Ve'ein stira b'kelim. And there's also, says Beit Hillel, no destruction. Okay? There's no malacha, a Torah malacha involved. Aval hatam, but there in that case of the kisui adam, low, right? Because there's a clear Torah mandated malacha, and that's why he says what he does. Okay. Now let's go on. Since we talked about the doves, let's go on with the doves, right? Okay. Everybody remember we talked about the ladder and how would it right? Windows in the dovecote. Okay. So, and Beit Shammai said you had to move the animal physically. Okay. Matnitin. Beit Shammai omrim. Lo yitol ela im kein na'anea miba'od yom. Okay. Says Beit Shammai, you cannot take the dove, okay, and use it even as a foodstuff on Yom Tov, unless you prepared it by moving it in advance the day before. Beit Hillel omrim, Beit Hillel says, Omeid v'omer, zeh v'zeh ani notel. And according to Beit Hillel, you don't have to get up on the ladder and move the animal. You could just point to it and say, I want that animal, that one with brown feathers, or I want the one on the third window on the left, whatever. Okay. Now, what's the Gemara going to say to us?
If you just designate the dovecote, the doves can exchange places.
Baruch Shekivanta, right there. That's what we're going to see
Oh,
in the
okay.
Gemara. Okay, terrific. Right. Amar Rav Chanan Bar Ami. He said as follows: Machloket bevricha rishona. The argument was really about the first brood of birds. The Beit Shammai Savre, Gazrin and Dilma Ate Lema Emluche, because Beit Shammai makes its a gezerah lest somebody change their mind. Right? Oh, I don't like that one. It's not fat enough. Or I don't like that one. I don't like the cut, whatever. Beit Hillel Savre, Lo Gazrinan, Aval. Okay, that we don't make such a decree, but b'bricha shniya divrei hakol ba'omed va'omer zeh v'zeh ani notel sagya. But starting with the second brood of birds, if somebody designates it verbally, it is sufficient that he can take it. Right? Okay. Ubod Hillel, says the Gemara, lama le lameimar zeh v'zeh ani notel. In regards to Beit Hillel, how is it possible, I'm translating Lamalia, right, to say simply that this one and this one I'm going to take? Lema mikan ani notel lemacha. Shouldn't it be better that he said, from this one I will take tomorrow? In other words, designating specifically the animal
And
or
the shova.
or the shovach or the window of the animal in the show. By the way, Corin, if you get a chance, has a terrific picture, okay, actually of a dovecote with the windows. Okay, normally we often think of it, at least I used to, as something with two rows. Okay, no, it's like
Two rows?
5 windows,
One above the other
one
one?
above the other.
One above the
Okay,
other.
a pole, right? And then you had, like a little house with the windows, 5 windows, one row above the other. Okay, the Cohen picture shows you that maybe in their time they didn't do it that way. Maybe it was built a little differently. All right, and the birds came in on different heights and different levels. Okay, so I just point that out, that if you get a chance, since we have Koran Gemaras in the building, to if you're interested to look at it. All right, and that helped me appreciate the statement of the Gemara saying, well, why can't you say I take it from this place? Okay, because if they were all in a row, that would make it a lot easier than, okay, so v'chitema Beit Hillel, lit laho breira, if you're going to say that Beit Hillel does not hold retroactively, all right? V'hatnan, okay? In other words, doesn't he have to also take it today, the day before the Yontif, to say that he's going to use it the next day on Yontif, right? So what happens? We have a Mishnah, Hamet Babayit, one who dies in a house, if there's a mace in the house, V'lo p'tachim harbe, kulan tme'im. All of the openings of the house then become tamei, because we don't know for sure which opening they're going to use to remove the mace. Okay? Niftach echad mehen, if one of the windows or doors is open, I'm going to say that one, hu tamei v'chulan tahorim. Okay, that particular one is tamei. The others are all tahor. Cheshev lahotzio be'echad mehen, if his intent was to take it out one of them. O b'chalon sheyesh bo arba'a al arba'a, or a large enough window, right, that was 4 by 4 that you could remove a mace from it. Matzelet al kol haptachim kulan. That saves all of the other openings. In other words, it prevents them, even if you thought of it, it prevents the others from becoming tamei. Okay. Beit Shammai omrim, v'hu shechishev lahotzio ad shelo yemut tamei. But that is only in a situation until the time that the mace is right there. Okay. Beit Hillel omrim. All right, that was Beit Shammai. In other words, you had to have it in advance, the decision which opening. Beit Hillel omrim, af mishayamut hamet. Okay, Beit Hillel says even when the person suddenly dies. Okay, so that would tell us that Beit Hillel does accept breira. Okay, in other words, so therefore the person could actually the day of Yontif come and say, I'm going to use this bird. Okay, and then for a later meal that day, take it and use it. All right. Okay, so what happens? Ha itmar Allah, and on this we said as follows: Amar Rava l'taher taptachim mikanu lahaba, and Rava said, in order to allow the other openings to be tahor, it has to be from here into the future. But Cain Amar Rabbi Yoshaya, and likewise is Rabbi Yoshaya, l'taher taptachim mikan ulahaba. Okay, from here into the future. And as if to say, both of them say, no, there's no breira in that kind of a situation, right? So the Gemara says, umikan lahaba en, lemafreya lo. It would seem to be that it applies only forward, but backwards, it doesn't apply. Rava amar olam lamafreya. Rava says, no, it does always apply, even backwards. Vahacha, hainu tama, and here we have the reasoning. Dilma metaltel v'shavi, right? Namely, we would say that he has to move and put it aside or put it down. Okay, metaltel v'shavi, again, move it and put it aside. V'kam metaltel midi delo chazile. But what about the fact that he is moving something that's not suitable? In other words, the item could be muksa,
The bird is
Right.
muksa.
right? Vaha amar, and here you say, Ba'omed va'omer zeh v'zeh ani notel sagya. And here Beit Hillel says, if he designates verbally this one and this one, it's sufficient. Okay? So the Gemara now tells us, Hani mili me'erev yom tov. No, what Beis Hillel meant was even that had to be done from before Yontif, okay, in advance, right? As we go over now. Aval b'yom tov asur, but on Yom Tov itself, he cannot do that. Okay, why? And here we go, Zev. The zimnin the mishtachachu chay shmanim kechushim, because it's possible that we might find fat ones and lean ones. Ukechushim shmanim, and we might find lean ones and fat ones. Ukemetal telmidi delo chazile, and it may be that he could have taken one that wasn't suitable for him. Inami, or also it's possible, izimnin, right? The mishtachache kulhu kechushim, or maybe he would find they were all lean, right? V'shavik laho, and he would just leave them. Va'ate le'em nuyed misimchat yom tov, and he would come to then have to, he would be prevented, let's put it that way, from rejoicing in the holiday.
Because he's not going to eat anything.
Because he wouldn't eat, have appropriate meal. Basar v'dagim, remember it says on a holiday.
Right.
Okay. So in one way, Zev's point is that they could be mixed up, is clear here. We're going to get to that even further. Matnit in this next Mishnah. Okay. What kind of doves are we talking about? Hello, anybody there? I see Harvey. Anybody else? Okay. Okay. Zman zimein shchorin umatzah levanim. Let's say he wanted to order, but really it means here he wanted to set aside, he designated black ones,
Right.
and he found white ones. Levanim umatzah shchorim. He designated, he had in mind prepared for white ones, and he found three. Right? What happened? On all of those three cases, asurim, they are prohibited. What happens, however, in this case, shlosha umatzah shnayim, if he had designated three birds and found two, mutarin, they are permitted. Okay, or let's go on. Let's say another situation. B'toch haken umatzah lifnei haken, that he had designated them when they were inside the nest and then found them outside the nest. Asurin, they're forbidden. V'im ein sham elahain, but if they're only those particular ones, Hare elu mutarin, then those ones are permitted. So what's the Gemara going to tell us? Pshita, isn't that obvious? Amar Rava, says Rabba says as follows. Hacha b'mayiskina. What are we dealing about? Kagon shazimein shchorin ulevanim. Let's say that he designated, right, black ones and white ones. V'hishkim umatzah shchorim b'makom levanim. And he got up early and he found black ones in the place of white ones. Ulavanim b'makom shchorim, or white ones in the place of the black ones. Right? Mahu detema. What are you trying to tell us? Hani inhu ninhu. These are the same ones, but what could have happened? Ve'ithapuche itapuch. Okay, and maybe they got intermingled. In other words,
They reversed their positions.
okay,
One
they
was in this
changed
corner.
positions was one option. I liked Corin's answer is that it
I
could
mean,
be
that's what the more happened. One was in the right corner and one was in the left
Right.
corner. So now
That's-
the white
that's
ones
the
are in the right corner.
that's the simple shot,
That's
right?
right.
That they changed locations.
Right.
Okay, but I happen to like Corin's. Okay, explanation was for Hitpuche was that perhaps those flew and others came. Okay, landed in those places. So either way, you're saying the birds you initially designated may not be the same ones that are there now.
But the Gemara says Shahaini Inu Ninu.
Right.
These are the ones that are here.
That's
they
what
were
they're-
the same ones.
That's
They
what
didn't
it's
fly
trying
away.
to. I'm saying it's suggesting these are the same
Okay.
ones.
The words, I mean,
Right.
right.
Kamashmalan comes to teach us whether that's the case or not. Okay. So now we go on. Hinach azdula alma. Maybe these some. Here's where the Gemara now. Maybe some flew out into the world. Vahani achrine ninu. And these are others that are there now. Lema Messiah Leila Rabbi Chanina. Now you see why Koren threw that in. Okay, not to disagree with what Ruvain was suggesting. Okay, so you have different possibilities how the animals could have been switched or changed. Lema Messiah Leila Rabbi Chanina. Let's say this supports the view of Rabbi Chanina, right? The Amar Rabbi Chanina, who says, Rov v'karov, alech achar harov. Majority and close, we follow after the majority, right? Kida Amar Abaye, as Abaye says, bidaf, namely that there's often a ledge or a platform outside the window of the animal, of the dove. Okay? Hachanami bidaf, here too. It could be that a different bird is on the ledge or on the platform than the one that the person originally had designated. That's the point. Okay? And again, as I said, that picture in Koren gives us a good sense of that. Okay, next part of our Mishnah was if he designated two and found three, it's forbidden, right? Manavshach. Either way, says the Gemara, right? Iacharine ninhu, if these are others. Ha acharine ninhu. So these others are others. Ve'ilo acharine ninhu. And if they're not others, ha ika chad de ma'arev baho, then at least, all right, there should have been at least one of them, okay, that got mixed in. But maybe I might have thought, well, the others
The other two are the original.
were the original one and they should have been okay.
Right.
So why do you have to say that all three of them are forbidden? Why? Because you don't know which is the real animal
That was there before.
that was the before and which was the new animal that had come. That's the point. You don't know which is what I'll call the real muktzah dove. Okay? All right, let's go on now. Shlosha umatzah shnayim mutarim. The Mishnah said if there were three doves, but you only found two, they're both permitted. My Tama, what's the reasoning? Hani ninhu. These are the same ones, says the Gemara. V'chad minahu azal la'amr. And maybe one of them just flew out to the world. Lema matnitin Rebbe v'lo Rabbanan. Does that mean we should say that our Mishnah is according to Rebbe and not according to the Chachamim? Tanya, because we learned elsewhere in a Braita. Hiniach maneh. umatzah matayim. If one left, let's say okay, well, we'll get to right. It's going to deal with a purse, but let's say a certain amount of money. All right, a mana usually then was a coin.
100 zuz.
Okay, 100 zuz coin, and he came back and he found two. Right, 200 zuz.
The one he put was Meiser Sheni.
Well, whatever it is, we'll get to that in a second. Okay, all right. So he put simply 100 zuz. I'm going to use that rather than money. And he came back and finds 200 zuz. Chulin, we have to assume that they're all chulin. Now, it could be, as the Gemara is going to tell us shortly, that one of them was chulin and one was maser sheni.
You have to read the whole phrase.
Right.
Chulin and Meiser Sheni Murav
Right.
Zeb.
So what happens? Said the mother. What's the 200? Chulin u'maser sheni muravin zebazeh. Divrei Rebbe. It could be that the two kinds of designations of money got mixed together. That's what could have happened, says Rebbe. But Chachamim omrim, but the sages say hakol chulin. In that case, all of the money is considered chulin. Okay, now we go on. Hiniach matayim umatzah maneh. He put down 200. Okay, maybe it was in a pouch. We'll see. All right. Okay, and comes back and finds only 100. Maneh munach umaneh mutal. 100 is there, and 100 is gone. It disappears. Divrei Rebbe. That's the view of Rebbe. V'chachamim omrim hakol chulin. Again, the sages say there it's all chulin. So the Gemara now tells us, hold on a second. Afilu tema rabbanan. You could even say that this Mishnah, this statement, is according to the rabbis. Ha'itmarala, and about this the following was said: Rabbi Yochanan v'Rabbi Eliezer, the Amrei Travaihu, that the two of them said, Shani gozalot ho'il va'asuyim lidadot, that the doves are little doves, fledgling doves, right, are different because they have a tendency to hop about. Okay? V'lamali lishnuye Allah, shani gozalot.
So doves are different from honey because the doves can hop
Yeah,
around.
we'll get to that in a second. Okay, all right. V'lamali lishnuye Allah, shani gozalot. Why then did I teach the whole issue that doves are different? Ho'il va'asuyin l'dodot, because they have the possibility to hop around, and we would normally think that a pouch of money would stay where it is, right? It wouldn't move, especially if it's tied up. A pouch of money. V'ha'itmar Allah, and here we say on it the following: Dahahi de Rabbi Yochanan v'Rabbi Eliezer, and this view of Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Eliezer, Chad Amar b'shnei kisim machloket. One said it was in regards to two different pouches or pockets or saddle bags or containers of money. Aval b'kis echad, with a single, let's use the word pouch, okay? Divrei hakol chulin, all the money would be considered chulin, right? V'chad amar, and the other one said, b'kis echad machloket. The argument was based on a single pouch. Aval b'shnei kisim, but when you have two pouches, divrei hakol, maneh munach umaneh mutal. That in that case, one pouch with 100
was
zuz,
Meiser Sheni money, and
okay,
one case was full of
was
money.
still there. The other was gone. So either way, you'd have a pouch of either Maser Sheni money or a pouch of chulin, right? Bishleim elaman damar b'shnei kisim machloket. That's acceptable to the one who said the whole argument was in regards to two pouches. Hainu de itztarich l'shinuye, hachashani goes alone, ho'il va'asuyin ledodot. That therefore that's the reason it was necessary for him to teach here in our case of the doves, that small doves tend to hop about. Okay, that's his point. Ella laman da'amar bekis echad machloket. But according to the one who said there was only the whole argument was in regards to only one pouch, aval b'shnei kisin divrei hakol maneh umanach umaneh mutal. But if there were two pouches, everybody would agree one pouch remains and one pouch was taken. Hashta lama li l'shnuye Allah. Why then would it be necessary to teach anything further about it, like the example of doves that could hop around? So the Gemara says, Ha amart b'shnei kisin. Here, didn't you say we were talking about two pouches?
Right.
Lo plivi, and there's no argument there. Amar Rav Ashi, hacha begozalot mikusharin. No, says Rav Ashi. Maybe we're talking about the fledglings that were tied together. The kisim mikusharim askinen. And we may be also talking about pouches that are tied, right? Gozalot min chache ahadade. The birds hopping about can pull themselves apart, okay? One from another. Kisim lo mitnache ahadade. Pouches can't necessarily pull themselves apart, okay? They can't release themselves. I'll just go over a little bit now. Okay? The Rebbe, Amalach, he could tell us as follows. Kisin nami zimnin demit akel katrayu. It's possible, however, that with regards to the pouches, the knots could become untied. And therefore, it's possible somebody could reach in. It's possible that money could have fallen out. Things like that. All right. So let's just go a tiny bit more. Okay, and then we'll stop. All right. B'toch hakein umatzah lefnei hakein asurin. Question is, if you find the doves inside the nest,
Designate it inside, you find them outside.
and you find them outside on the ledge. Okay. Now, why is this a problem? Think back. What did Beis Hillel say was the way to designate?
Saying.
Just saying it.
Okay.
Okay, I want the one in that window. I want the one in that window. Okay, now the question is, all right, was the dove inside or the dove outside? If the dove was inside, according to Beit Hillel, when you said it, and now you see a dove outside, do you know for sure if it's the same dove? You don't know.
Right.
Okay, so that lema Messiah Leila Rabbi Chanina. Shall we say then that this is again a support to Rabbi Chanina? The Amar Rabbi Chanina, who says, Rov v'karov halacha char harov. The majority and what's close, we go by the majority. In other words, most birds come from elsewhere, all right? And it therefore may not be the same bird that was inside the dove cote, and therefore it's possible that the bird out there is muktzah, right? That's his point. Char harov, Amar Abaye, bedaf. Again, he says it's on the ledge. Rabba Amar says, Rabba, b'shnei kanin zola malami zo askinan. We're dealing with two ledges or two nests, one above the other. That's what we're doing. Below mebaye, zman betachtona, below zman be'elyona. And we don't have to specify. We didn't say whether it was the upper one or the lower one. Umatzah b'tachtona v'lo matzah be'elyona da'asiran. And we say that we found it in the lower one and didn't find it in the upper one. That's where we prohibit. Right? Why? Because da'asrina, da'amrinan, hinach azlu la'alma, v'hinach ishtarvuve, ishtarbuv v'nachot. Okay? And we say, therefore, that this one could have gone out to the world. And what about these others? Ishtarbuvle got mixed, right? They got mixed. In other words, maybe the one above went to the lower nest and vice versa. And that's where we'll stop right there. Okay? Right? Because once we get to Ella, it tells us we're going to see another explanation, another interpretation. All right, everybody? Good day, everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
They were dealing with fledglings, small
They don't
birds,
fly yet.
so they don't fly yet, right? Okay, everybody have a good Shabbos.
Everyone have a Shabbos. Take care.